Hello guys, welcome to the free 7-day Flutter session masterclass. So welcome to the all-in-one cyber team. Here we're gonna teach about what Flutter is, why Flutter, and so as an entire Flutter framework. So this is actually a 7-day free live session. So feel free to join and just get started with what Flutter is and how you can use Flutter for building your very first mobile application. So yeah, let's get started. So yeah, first things first, what the heck is Flutter? So Flutter is actually Google's UI toolkit for building native applications for Android, web, iOS, etc. And Flutter is also supporting more than 8 platforms, which is going to be in the near future. But for now, Flutter is supporting stable builds or Flutter is stable for Android and iOS currently. And for web, it's currently in beta, so it's not recommended for production by the Google team. But still, in a couple of months or years, sure, the web is also going to be in the stable mode, and you can also use Flutter for deploying your web applications too for the production level. So yeah, exactly. If you actually code a project, then you can compile that for Android and also for the iOS. So this would actually save a lot of development time and a lot of developer efforts or a lot of money in order to hire some other iOS developer or to hire an Android developer building the platform for both these levels for Android and iOS. Instead, if you use Flutter, so you can just build that for both Android and iOS. So yeah, why Flutter? So Flutter enables faster development, expressive flexible UI, and native performance. Fast development, which I mean a feature in Flutter which is called hot reload. So hot reload is a feature that comes up whenever you're coding something, or if you're gonna change a block of code in the application on the one side, you can see the live effects or the reflecting effects whenever you hit on the control save. You can see the live changes on the emulator or on the debugging device that you are actually used for debugging. So this would actually reduces the development time and increasing the efficiency of the programmers in order to build these applications. If you are familiar with the Android development, if you want to change if you change something and if you want to see the effect on the emulator, you need to restart the entire application. But unless in Flutter, you can actually see them live changes, which it doesn't need to restart the entire application. Instead, it just reload the application, and this feature is called hot reload in Flutter, which makes it much efficient, much more reliable for productive for developers, etc. And flexible UI is something one of the most important stuff that Flutter is meant for. Flutter is meant for building beautiful applications. It's meant for user-friendly, better user experience, and better animated kind of application, which enables Flutter, one of the popular toolkit for building applications for better user interfaces. So native performance. Whenever you're building application for Android and for the iOS too, you can actually see the native performance or the platform had changed actually for the project, and you need to also actually need to affect that same for Android and iOS. So native performance is one of the most important thing, that it doesn't change any kind of performance whether the platform is Android or whether the platform is iOS. It works with the same performance and same kind of energy, you can say. So yeah, what is Dart? So Dart is actually a programming language developed by Google itself. So Google actually developed Dart because of Flutter. So Flutter actually uses Dart programming language. Flutter is actually a framework, and Dart is the programming language that we actually gonna use in order to build the Flutter applications. And yeah, okay, that's the programming language. But why the Google team actually choose Dart to build Flutter? So that is actually a good question. The one thing is Dart is a programming language which is fast, efficient, and effective and productive too. It is as fast enough that it is enabling 60 frames per second, which is actually a parameter that is actually used in measuring animations, etc. You can understand. And 60 frames per second is something which makes us very smooth and efficient, and because of that, in Flutter applications we enable that feature. So it is that amount of fast so that we can see the effect as 60 frames per second, which makes the application much smooth and that makes the users much interactive, and they would actually love the application because of that. And on the other hand, if you want to have if you're going to build applications, you need to build the UI. So you can say something like a front end stuff. So whenever you're building a front end kind of stuff, then you need to declare the UI. So declarative UI syntax is something which is most important in these kind of frameworks, these front end developing frameworks. So Dart actually supports this. So separate declarative layout language. So instead, if you have an idea in JavaScript, sorry, in the Android development, XML is what something it actually uses to actually declare the UI. And in React, maybe if you're familiar with that, React Native, you can say JSX is actually something that it is actually used to declare the UI. So separate visual builders are actually created for each of these frameworks, and decorative programming language is something which is necessary in order to build the UI, and Dart actually supports that much smooth and fast enough, and that is what made the Google team to go with the Dart. So yeah, what made the Flutter a trending or a hot topic in the developer communities? Of course, that is hot reloading. Hot reloading, as we had talked before, if you want to change something, if you have changed the block of the code on one hand, and you can see the live effects that is going to happen on the other hand in the emulator or on the debugging device that you have actually used for debugging. So this actually reduces a lot of development time and increasing the reliability of the applications and increasing the productivity of the developers that who actually build these applications. And yeah, who is our serious competitor? Of course, if you have a trending or a beautiful kind of a framework, of course there would be a serious competitor for us, and that is React Native. So React Native, it is actually created by Facebook to actually build applications for Android and for iOS, similar to Flutter, right? So yeah, of course, it is similar to Flutter, but there are a lot of differences that we need to talk about Flutter and React Native. Actually, Flutter is actually a latest framework. It is actually it is trending on the developer communities nowadays. So most of the developers are looking forward towards Flutter instead of you can understand, not React Native, but a lot of other stuff. Instead, Flutter is actually going trending in the mobile development. So yeah, let's talk some difference between what Flutter and what React Native actually is. So Flutter is actually backed by Google. On the other hand, React Native is backed by Facebook. Yes, of course, we know that. That's actually not a big difference. Okay, then we need to talk about the main important concept, that why we need to look forward towards Flutter instead of React Native. The first main thing is actually the app performance. As we have talked about earlier, purely native, which means that we need to provide the native experience to the end users so that they doesn't actually need to think that this is not actually an iOS kind of application. This is not actually kind of Android kind of application. We need to provide purely native experience. That way, we got the Cupertino packages, the material components for Android, and Cupertino package for the iOS, etc. But on the other hand, React Native doesn't actually support these kind of complete native kind of a feature. So it's, you can say, fairly robust. And the UI, on the other hand, with Flutter, you can say it is customized, proprietary customized widgets, which means Flutter is actually completely built with widgets, and you can actually declare your own widgets and you can create your own widgets. There are more than thousands of widgets in the Flutter framework. Just don't get worried about like remembering each of them. They will be like easier. You just don't need to worry about that. But yeah, it was built with widgets. And on the other hand, React Native, similar to widgets, it is called components. And Flutter actually supports 60 frames per second, and React Native actually kind of doesn't support 60 frames per second because it depends on the RAM of the application, and it depends on the system architecture. It depends on the Android version that the user is on. And Flutter actually supports JIT and AOT. Okay, JIT, which means just in time compilation, and AOT, which means ahead of time compilation. So these are actually the compilation parameters that like compiling whenever you if you have save a block of code and if you want to see the live effects, then you need to have a feature of JIT, just in time compilation, which means it need to compile each time just at that moment whenever it was saved, and it need to show the live changes on the other hand. So JIT is what actually taken the role of auto loading, and ahead of time compilation is pretty much common. And Flutter actually supports this feature, and on the other hand, React Native doesn't do that. So yeah, widgets everywhere. So widgets, you can say, are the building blocks for building a Flutter application. Yes, of course, because widgets are what actually filled with in a Flutter application. So yeah, widgets everywhere. Don't just get afraid. There are thousands of widgets on the framework, but don't just get afraid that this is there are a lot. I can just remember everything. Don't just feel like that. It would be much easier and much you can just get through whenever you once you get started in the programming language and you started working on the framework itself. Yeah, Flutter maintains the native experience over various platforms. If you have seen here, if you have in the picture, or which is on the right hand side, you can say that the Android kind of a sharing feature and iOS kind of a sharing feature. This is what actually I mean by maintaining the native experience over various platforms. We need to make sure that the end user is getting the same experience whether he is working on whether he's based on his own platform. For example, if a user is a fan of iOS, and if you have built an application that doesn't actually feel like an iOS application, then the user is not satisfied with the application. So we need to provide that kind of an experience for the end users. That's why Flutter comes with the most of packages called Cupertino package and material components for Android apps and Cupertino for iOS. So Cupertino, if you have known that, Cupertino is actually a place in the Bay Area in Silicon Valley where actually a lot of Apple stuff had happened. So they just gone with that name. So Cupertino package is there for building iOS kind of features and material components, which is actually a material kind of a layer for Android applications. So animations are what makes the end users to really like the application, your application, which you are going to build in the future. So 60 frames per second, which makes it much smoother, fast enough, reliable, and efficient for the end user, and they're gonna really like your application for sure. So well, isn't that interesting? Yeah, of course, Flutter everywhere. So yeah, it's time for building the first application. But before we're gonna build our very first application, we need to talk about the programming language that we need to learn before working on the framework. So here is actually a 7 day schedule that what we're gonna learn in these 7 days. So if you wanna just take a look around, just pause the video and just take a look at everything. And yeah, if you go precisely, so day one of Flutter masterclass, so we have just talked about what is Flutter and what we need to, why we need to learn Flutter, what and why Dart. We just done all the three stuff, and we're reminded with the two concepts which are actually going to talk about the programming language. So it is actually time for coding. So let's jump over to the editors over there. And before going that, you can see the entire code base of this series is actually available over my GitHub. You can just go to http://github.com/rps9 and find the repo named Flutter Masterclass for 7 days, and you will just get the day 1 to day 7 information regarding the entire what you're just gonna work on. So you can see this is the URL. Yeah, just I will just gonna provide in the description. So whenever you actually head over to that URL, you can see day 1 and you can see day 2, day 3, day 4 till day 7, and you can just go through the entire code and just grab some knowledge and just work on the projects. Okay. So yeah, it's time to actually work on the coding part. So before we're gonna go, so these are actually the 7 topics that I would like to talk about in the Dart programming language for today. So yeah, first of all, we're gonna build our very first Hello World application, and after that, we're gonna talk about the data types, and after that, followed by variables, what variables are, how to use variables, how to make actually stuff, and after that, we have condition statements and operators, definite and indefinite loops, and functions. So yeah, these are what we're going to talk about, and let's get to the Hello World application. So I'm going to use VS Code for debugging my applications because I have actually installed Dart already in my computer. But as you guys, this is actually the very first day. You might have not installed Dart. We are going to talk about the installation of Dart and Flutter and Android SDK, pretty much everything in the day 2 of this series. So for now, you can actually use dartpad.dev. I would just like to guide you a bit how to open that. Search for Dartpad in the Google, you can say, and hit enter, and you can see the first link says dartpad.dev. Click on it and you can see this kind of stuff, and whatever code it is there, just remove pretty much everything, and we're gonna start working from the scratch. Okay, and if you just I'm just going to write some my very first hello world kind of application, just explaining you how to use this. And I just written a bit of code that would actually say hello world, and if I just click on run, it would actually show in the console over here. So you just need to click on run and it will be compiled, and you can see the output on the other hand. So yeah, that was actually handy. And yeah, we just gone to our very first hello world application. Perfect, right? I'm just gonna use it like I'm just gonna code over here on my terminal. I'm gonna say dart and the file name, which is actually one that's hello world or dart, and you can see hello world had actually just logged out on the screen. Perfect, right? So yeah, I would just like to go a simple brief explanation. So this is actually a main function. So main function is actually something that would actually fire up or execute whenever you actually compile a Dart file. Whatever you're gonna write inside this curly braces will be executed on app execution. So yeah, that's how we just had to print out the hello world stuff, and it just logged out on the screen. Yeah, that's the very first hello world application we just built. Great, right? It's simple, easy. We just don't need to use some hash include studio, and we just need to using namespace std or something like weird, or you can say like system.println.out, something kind of weird, that but you can use just print, and yeah, it does what actually expected. Great, right? So yeah, let's get to the next concept. We're gonna talk about the data types after that, and variables. So data types. So data types are actually a kind of saving a kind of item, or you can say data in the format itself. If you talk about your name, it is actually a string. If you talk about a number, it's actually an integer. You can even have decimal numbers, which is actually a float or a double, you can say. And we have true and false, boolean kind of stuff, and you have map and list on the other hand. So whatever I had just stored are these variables over here, you can see. And these are actually something that are the most common data types in Flutter. This is actually string though, I just forgot to add that. Alright, so we are going to use each and every of them over here. And variables are actually something that is actually a reference for the type of data you have just saved. So I would just rather gonna explain that programmatically. So I just created the main function, and whatever you have going to write in this main function will be executed as expected. So yeah, initially in order to define data type, you just need to use the data type name, and here it is int for integer values, and I just want to say a. You can just give pretty much any name. I just give an a, and after that you can just assign an integer value over there. And I'm gonna say integer b is equals to 20, and you can do the same. And that is how you actually define an integer. And this is integer a is actually a data type, and a and b are the variables over here. So I just saved the data in the format of an integer, and you have double to save the decimal values on the other hand, and you can say DEC, and you can say 3.14, or you can say pi. The value of the pi is 3.14 as it is. And yeah, that's how you actually initialize a double value. And there is boolean value, which are actually true and false kind of stuff. So I just given a name truthy, which is actually a true statement, and you can also give this false. So these are actually predefined kind of stuff, true and false. So make sure you never just confuse of that. You don't need to use capital T. You shouldn't be using capital F. Instead, it is small true and small false. That's it. And after that, we'll have string over here. So string starting with capital S. You can say your name. You can give your name. So So my name is, as it is RBSMag, I had just given my name inside this variable name of this string format as expected. And after that, we have this done with string, we done with float, and okay, you can say float and double or probably same. So don't just worry about that. So list. So if you talk about an array, if you are familiar with the programming languages, arrays are actually sequence of data storage in a memory allocation, which are actually separated by a couple number of precise number of bits. So list actually saves the data in a form of a sequence. So you can say 1, 3, 5, 7, a couple of more than one item in a list. And you can also use string, and you can also use double, and you can also use boolean as expected. Perfect, right? So that is actually what a string list is meant for. And you can also be precise that if you actually only pass the values over here or actually strings, then you can just give string over here, and you can see it is actually expecting a string, but you actually pass in there. It is showing that kind of an error. And whenever it is string, then it's fine with this, but it is not fine with the true 3.14 and all these integers over here. Yeah, that's why it was showing that kind of an error underlined by that. And after that, we have map. So map, if you are familiar with the JSON data, then it is like merely the same. So map actually starts with curly braces, or sorry, the flower braces, you can say, opening and closing flower brace, and you just need to give reference and the value. So on the left hand, it would be the reference, and you're gonna save the value on the other hand. So for example, if I want to save my name, then my first name, which is RPS, and then I can also save my last name like this. And both of these are actually separated by a comma over here. So that's how you can actually, and never forget to use the semicolon at the end. And that's how we actually initialize a map kind of a data. And you can also print each and every of these stuff. Let's change this to date list because both are having same name. So you can actually print out everything. Just printing out a, print out by value, print name, and we actually have print list and print data. And if I execute this, it's actually the first one. Yeah, you can see everything had just logged out on the screen smoothly. So yeah, that's how we actually use this data kind of data types and variables in an application. You can also, I just forgot about this boolean stuff, but you can also print that out just like that by using the print statement. That was interesting, right? So yeah, let's hop on to the next one, condition statements. Okay, so we're gonna go to that file where is condition statements. I have not created that. Okay, let's create that for us. Okay, we got the file. So there will be a situation on in the programming languages that whenever a condition satisfies, you need to perform a block of code, and if it doesn't satisfy the block of condition, then it need to execute the other block or other set of the code. So those are actually that is actually called a condition statement. So first of all, I just created the main function, and after that I just initialize the value of a as 10, which is going to be an integer. Perfect, right? So after that, I'm gonna check whether if a is equals to 10, and if it is equals to 10, I'm saying to print yes, and if it is not, then else, then it's gonna execute this block of code which says no. So whenever the condition that you actually pass over here is true, then it will actually execute this, and if it is not, then it could execute the code in the else block. So that's how the conditional statements actually work. So if I execute this, the output of this would be, of course, S, because the value of the A is 10. And if I actually change the value of A from 10 to 9, then it would say no, because it is not actually. So that's how conditional statements work. So we are done with the conditional statements. So we have operators over here. So things actually go interesting over here in operators. So I'm gonna create the main function. If you wanna build a calculator kind of application, mobile application or a web application of type calculator, then you need to talk. We need to actually discuss about this stuff, because we're gonna use addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, etc. We're gonna perform these operations now. So I just initialize the value of the A is equals to 10 and the value of the B is equals to 20. And you can say I can actually add them both by using the plus symbol. I can actually subtract that from one another using the minus symbol, and A into B by doing the same, and A divided by B. And if I just execute this, as expected, we will get the values based on that. You can see A plus B, which is actually 30, and A minus B is actually minus 10, and A cross B, which is 200, and A by B, which is 0.5 or 1 by 2, you can say. So if you're actually building a calculator application, then this is going to be much useful. And there is actually one more thing, A percentage B, which is actually the modulus. So it will actually throw the reminder on dividing A with 20. Yeah, we are done with operators now, and we actually have definite and indefinite loops. Okay, so loops are actually kind of a statements that would keep on executing. So if you wanna print hello world for one time, print, sorry for that. Okay, if you want to execute print for one time, then you can just say like this, just print it. It would actually like print that. But what if you would actually wanted to print the same for 100 times, then if you're using print statement for 100 times is not actually a best practice in programming. So instead, in this kind of stuff, we need to use a concept called loops. So there are two kind of loops, indefinite loops and definite loops. So indefinite loops are actually the loops that you have endpoint. For example, if you want to print hello world for 100 times, you know it need to start from the first time, and you need to print the second time, third time till it is 100 times. So this is actually having a limit, so it is a definite. And there are actually some kind of statement that you don't know actually where to stop, so those are called the indefinite, that actually keep on executing until a condition actually satisfies, but you really don't know where to stop. So those are actually indefinite loops. So first of all, I just actually gonna start writing a definite loop. So 100 times I plus plus, and you can see this is actually a definite loop. So for is actually a keyword that is actually used in these kind of stuff. I just initialized a value of I with 0, and then I actually verifying that if it is less than 100, then execute whatever which is going to be written in the block, and keep on incrementing the value of I each time whenever it is executing this block. So it would actually I just actually want to concatenate with it. Instead, I just want to print the value of I dash and say hello world. So you can see there is actually a kind of stuff, because this is actually an integer and you need to convert that to a string, because print statement actually want a string kind of stuff. That's why. So I'm saying that to print the value, print hello world for 100 times. So it's going to be start executing from the 0 and it would actually execute till it was 99. So you can see till 99 it was executed, and you can see it was started from 0 because the value of I is 0. But if you wanna say it need to start from 1, then it would start executing from 1. But it would actually stop at 99 because it would verify this stuff. Because if you want to see 99, then you use equal to. So it actually started from 1 and it would actually execute till 100. Now it was 100 because we actually used the equal to, because it is verifying whether it was equal to or less than that. Keep on executing this. So the value of I would be 100 at a point of time, and it would verify that is equal to 100. So it would execute this. So the value of the I at that point is actually 100. So it would actually print hello with 100. So yeah, that is actually a definite loop. But that's okay. Let's talk about what an indefinite loop is. So there are actually two kind of stuff in this: do while loop and just while loop. So first of all, a while loop actually takes a condition over here. So if I say if I have an integer value which is a is equals to 10, and if I say if a is equals to 10, then execute this block of code. And if I run this, so it would actually keep on executing s forever. It is actually printing that for hundreds of times and thousands of times. It doesn't gonna stop because always the condition that a is equals to 10 is true. That's right, keep on executing. And we actually have a different kind of method or rewriting this, where you just wanna execute this minimum one number time, and after that you need to verify each and every time whenever you actually want to perform any kind of statement. So if you want to print hello world, so it would definitely gonna execute this block of code for one time, and after that it would verify this thing, which is a is equals to 10, and it would verify this, and if it is true, it would keep on executing the block of code forever. So the output of this is actually precisely same as before, because it never gonna stop. It will keep on printing that out. It never gonna stop. That's how actually indefinite loops work. So yeah, that's what loops are. So I hope you guys are clear with the loops now. And then we got functions. So let's go over here. So yeah, again, I have just created the main function. So main function is also a function that is actually predefined, because whenever whenever the code is actually executing, it actually finds for the main function, and whatever you want to write inside the main function will be executed. So we can also define a custom function like this, my fun and brackets and like that, and you can actually write whatever you want to execute with this function. I can say my function just executed. Perfect. And after that, there is a method of something called return type. So I just going to use a void here. Void is actually nothing, an integer, not a list, not a map, not a float, not a boolean, nothing. So void is actually representing nothing, which means it doesn't actually return. The function doesn't want to return anything. So I can call the function over here, my function, and you can execute that, and you can see it will print my function just executed on log. You can see my function is executed, and this thing was executed from this block of code. This block of code you can see. So that's how you can call functions, and this is actually called declaring a function, and this is called calling a function, you can say. And yeah, you can also pass the values inside a function, like passing values inside a function, and you can actually pass this like you just need to create the variable name over here, and whenever you are actually calling that function, it would actually ask for the name, because I had given the variable as name, and after that you can just pass whatever data type you have used over here. And as I have given the string, you can use a string value over here to pass, and whenever you can actually use the same inside the function. And again, it is not actually uh, expecting to return anything, so yeah, I just left it, and you can execute that, and you can see my RPS are actually logged out on the screen, and which is actually done by this function over here. And after that, you can also actually get the values out of that by returning a function. So if I actually wanted to return an integer value, then getting a return value function, and I would just return. You can actually say whatever you want to have to getting a return value, and then you can return the same. I just want to return 45 maybe. It can be any integer, but it shouldn't be a decimal value like this, or neither a string nor a map nor any kind of stuff, but because it is actually expecting an integer. So you can actually write that function inside a print statement, so that it can actually print this value after returning. It would actually come over here, and it would actually print on the screen. And you can see 45 was actually executed on the console because it was actually returned from this function, and the return value is actually passed inside the print statement. So that's why it's actually just printed 45 on the screen. And yeah, that is actually functions. So I hope you guys understand whatever we have just discussed today. Just go through the entire video again, just work on this, and you can also work on a lot more on other kind of stuff, like performing different logical kind of, just with your own idea and with your own thinking, you can create new kind of programs on your own. Yeah, so yeah, just keep practicing it, and once you got enough practice in this, you are able to build applications fast enough, easier, and much more reliable. So yeah, the upcoming days will be interesting, where we're gonna build our applications, and you can also even publish your application on the Play Store, on iOS Store. So it was really excited, right? So yeah, that's it guys for today. Have a great day.